During my Fulbright Fellowship at the National University of Singapore in summer 2019, I had the opportunity to visit several great healthcare projects, including Kutek Quad, which I later found, which I found quite amazing in many senses, especially in the way that it serves the local community. And that's something that you normally don't see in big hospital projects. Uh, After my visit, I approached this firm and scheduled a meeting with one of the principals, Mr. Frankie Lim, who patiently discussed their projects. At that point, I informed him of our design health activities in Baltimore and our partnership with AI Baltimore, and invited them to join us in here to present their projects and share their experiences. Now it's our pleasure to have Dr. Jin Ting Lee from CPG Consultants to present their work to our community. Hopefully this presentation will lead to new collaborations and partnerships. And a few words about Dr. Lee, who is joining us as a guest speaker tonight. Dr. Lee is a healthcare architect and researcher. Her goal is to bridge the gap between theory and application in order to improve the quality of architectural design for the overall health, wellness, and lifestyle of its users. Her work practice is carried out through evidence-based analysis, user-centric design development, and predictive implementation processes. And she believes in engaging with different stakeholders to improve the outcome of each project. And as a visitor of many of the projects that are designed by CPG in Singapore, I can witness to this claim. She has a PhD in architecture from Texas A&M University and a Master's of Architecture from the National University of Singapore. And she has been working with CPG since 2012. She has published and presented several papers and has served as the editorial assistant of the Health, Environments, Research and Design Journal. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Lee. Please join me in welcoming her here.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. Hi, everyone. So my name is Jin, and I'm from Singapore. And so a little about me, you know that I was working in CPG since 2012 as a healthcare architect. And then in 2015, I decided to take a sabbatical break to pursue a PhD at Texas A&M. And what they taught me in school was that if you want your presentation to go well, you have to start the presentation by greeting your audience with a traditional Texan greeting. So, howdy everyone. Today is my pleasure to represent CPG in presenting some of our healthcare projects in Singapore and in Asia. So my presentation will be divided into three parts. I'll give you a short introduction about our firm and some information about Singapore, the country itself. I'll go through the Singapore projects and focus on two of our hospitals as well as our overseas portfolio. So a bit about CPG. It is a multidisciplinary design consultancy firm that's based in Singapore, and our services cover almost everything, from aviation to healthcare to education, institutional, residential, and even transportation and urban planning projects. Our services also cover almost the entire spectrum of the construction industry, starting from investments with developers to different aspects of design consultancy and even facilities management. So CPG has about 1,900 employees in total, and this is spread over 24 different countries. It includes China, India, Malaysia, mostly within the Asian region, with about 50% of our staff located in Singapore. And so actually most of our projects are based in Singapore, but gradually our portfolio is extending to the international market, with about 6% of our projects based in China right now. So a bit of information about Singapore as a country. It is located at the tip of the southern border of Malaysia. It is a very, very small island state, so it measures at 17 by 31 miles across. It is located on it is located at 1 degree north of the equator. So what this means is that we have only one season all year round, and it's summer. It is very, very hot, extremely humid, and we experience a lot of rainfall. So the local climate is actually very persuasive in our design of the environment as well as the buildings. And yet, despite the land size, we have a population of about 5.6 million people. That population density translates to 20,000 persons per square mile, and this makes us the second densest city in the world. So we have a need for creative high-rise solutions in where we work, live, and play that also balances our land needs with preserving the natural environment. So a bit more about CPGHealthcare. This is the studio that I'm from. We have projects that dates to the 1980s. Our mission is to design, deliver innovative, creative, and sustainable health-oriented developments. Our projects are quite diverse. We have a mix of public and private healthcare projects, medical academic projects, as well as health promotion developments, and even wellness communities. We try to cover the broad spectrum of healthcare, targeting different phases of life, so all the way from primary care to palliative care. And we do this with 5 core strategies. The first one is understanding the care model and understanding the clients that we work with by achieving sustainability through designs that are compact and accessible, by integrating our project into the community and changing the perception of hospitals as places of diseases. We seek innovative solutions through thoughtful collaborations with our clients, and we look for salutogenic approaches that are people-centric. So these 5 core strategies can be summed up in our biophilic design approach towards our projects. And this is a short video.
Our job is to design more responsibly.
Make a garden city a true work of nature.
We believe in biophilic design, so wherever possible, we bring that into our design. Biophilic design is essentially how we use design to cultivate the love of living things.
It's to highlight the beautiful aspects of nature that people can fall in love with. My role is to bring nature into the indoors so that people are never quite detached from the outdoors.
To me, it's a tool to see how you incorporate all these various natural elements in the building design so as to create an environment of wellness. The future of design is to think long-term, and the best way to do it as one of the strategies is to integrate with nature. Hence, biophilic design is one of the best strategies out there.
Imagine you have a site full of trees. If you add a building in there without eliminating the trees, you are bringing another aspect that was not originally there while maintaining the memories and the natural aspects of it. Biophilic design does improve productivity, especially in the creative industry.
If you look at Solaris as an example, it is surrounded by nature. It has an atrium that brings in natural light. So there are ample opportunities for the workers to step out of office or look out the window.
What we have here are all the horizontal fins that also act as light shelves, reflecting light all the way into the building. By doing that, what happens is that there's a lot of natural daylight coming into this building even without the lights on.
So that's a benefit of what biophilic design brings.
Biophilic design does help improve the healing process, especially ample ventilation like breezes and views.
Natural light actually helps the body generate vitamin. Psychologically, it brings up the mood.
When we did the design for this hospital, we thought, why can't every patient have a window? So what we did is we reinvented the ward layout. By having it as a staggered ward layout, every patient now has a view out towards a very nice, beautiful garden. And in terms of the ventilation, you can have the wind moving through the wards because you have windows on both sides. And when you have the view out, you have better ventilation, you have greenery, it will actually aid in the healing process.
In the education setting, biophilic design also plays an important role. When people, and especially children, stimulated by the environment, the spirits are lifted and the attention is heightened.
This is actually a very special school to me. It is Victoria School. Instead of a very conventional courtyard, we actually designed the landscape to be like an eco garden. We call it the eco street, and we use it as a learning environment for the school itself. So students can immerse themselves and treat this as an outdoor science laboratory, or more like an outdoor learning classroom.
By incorporating biophilic design into schools, the school itself becomes a tool for learning, an example of indoors and outdoors, and how it reacts to the environment.
Biophilic design to me is about really going back to the roots. We are really giving up a lot of our natural spaces. The only way to reclaim that back is to integrate that in the way we design in our buildings. For Singapore, that is the way forward.
Imagine if every development is integrated with nature. So every new development regenerates nature. And there's a kind of future we hope that we can contribute towards.
Right, okay. So I'm going to move forward into presenting our Singapore projects. The first one is the Khoo Teck Puat Hospital in Singapore. The key feature of this project was its integration with nature. And the predecessor was Alexandra Hospital. It was a facility that was built in the colonial era. So most of the facility was low-level buildings, and it spread over 13.5 hectares of land. And the challenge for the new hospital was to take this previous hospital and squeeze it onto a site that was 1/3 its size, while retaining the garden concept of the original hospital. So the clients wanted a hospital within a garden, and their aims was to elevate stress and improve patients' rate of recovery, create an invigorating park-like environment for the general public, as well as a conducive working environment for the staff. The project was completed in 2010 with RMJM Architects, and the gross floor area of the project is about 108,000 square meters with 550 beds. The core clinical services include diagnostics, 8 operating theaters, a specialist outpatient clinic, and in terms of the biophilic design, we managed to achieve a green plot ratio of 3.9. That roughly translates into the total surface area horizontally and vertically being 4 times that of the buildable area itself. And 40% of our blue-green areas are publicly accessible. So you see this internal courtyard that's between the 2 inpatient ward towers. We made it open to the public and provided facilities such as public benches and tables for the public to use, for them to host outdoor events such as music performances. In terms of some of the unique features, we have tropical plants that were used in the landscape for the ease of maintenance. We have 8 rooftop farms on this hospital with 100 different species of fruit trees and 50 different types of vegetables and herbs. And the farms are run by a volunteer group from the neighboring community, and most of the harvests from these farms are used in the hospital kitchen. And so you can see that this hospital is really integrated with the larger ecosystem. And there's evidence in this in the increasing number of butterfly species. So when we first started, there was only 3 butterfly species spotted on the hospital grounds, and now we have about 83. Furthermore, we wanted to expand the blue-green areas of the hospital by adopting the adjacent stormwater pond. So originally, this pond was just to collect rainwater for storage purposes, and we wanted to convert it into a park. So that green belt where you, on the photo, is actually where a concrete retaining wall used to be. And we deconstructed it and introduced aquatic plants to clean the water and create biodiverse habitats. And we connected the park to the hospital through a walking trail. With regards to addressing the local climate, we wanted to enhance the daylight, maximize natural ventilation, and reduce glass. And we achieved this through orientating the ward towers to capture the north-south wind, as well as the usage of aluminum fins on the facade that enhance airflow by 20 to 30%. And the outcome is that we reduce our reliance on mechanical ventilation by 60%. So we conducted a post-occupancy survey with 200 participants. They were users like the staff, the patients, as well as visitors. And we asked them if hospital design should invest in biophilic elements, and it was a resounding yes of 80%. We also found out from this survey that 15% of the users are actually recreational visitors. These are the people who are coming to use the hospital, and their primary visit is not a healthcare visit. And out of this 15%, more than half of them are coming from the nearby estates. So this is a video of the hospital. This is a stormwater pond and the walking trail. And this is the lobby of the hospital, which is completely naturally ventilated. This is showcasing the pond as part of the hospital. And this is a view from inside the rehab center. This is an aerial shot showing the hospital as part of the overall community. Okay, so the next project I'm going to present is the Ng Teng Fong General Hospital. The key feature of this hospital is to create a hospital without walls. And the aim was a facility that is for the community and of the community. And we wanted a performance-based design that supports resource efficiency, health, and well-being. So the gross floor area of this project is 184,000 square meters with a total of 1,100 beds. And the hospital itself is divided into 3 buildings over a very sprawling urban landscape. We have the Specialist Outpatient Clinic Tower, which is 8 stories of 16 clinics located on the left. And then the one in the middle is the Regional Hospital, which is 16 floors in total. We have 4 floors dedicated to critical care, and I think over 40 ICU units, as well as 18 operating theaters. And then we have 12 floors of inpatient wards. And then the last hospital on the right is the community care hospital, it's step-down care, with 8 floors of inpatient wards. So this project was completed in 2015 with HOK Architects. As you can see on the site itself, it is surrounded by major roads, and in fact, the Specialist Outpatient Clinic is disconnected from the main site by one of the roads, the Jurong Gateway Road. So to address this situation, we needed to create a public thoroughfare on the first floor above the ground level, which connected the hospital to its urban site. So we wanted to link the retail malls and the train station to the hospital itself and provide the people, the users of the hospitals and the community a safe passageway when they are moving through the space. It is linked through 5 main bridges, and this created a very transparent, inclusive environment that really embedded the hospital into the community, especially when you're moving from one shopping mall to another. You don't really notice that you are moving within hospital grounds. The walk score for this project is 86 out of 100. And what I wanted to show you that's interesting about this hospital, so this is actually just a typical example of inpatient ward design in Singapore. Now in Singapore, because of the land scarcity, we don't have the same luxury that the American models have with 1 or 2 beds within a room or ward. Typically, the wards is about 6 to 8 beds in one bay. And also because of the healthcare system, we need to be a bit more cost efficient. So many of these wards are naturally ventilated. And so if you look at the traditional design, you have a window on one end. The daylight that penetrates the ward is really limited. And the view itself is really just for the person that's right next to the window. And it actually creates an environment that has quite poor circulation of air. So what we wanted to do in Ng Teng Fong General Hospital was to re-innovate this inpatient ward layout. So we staggered the bed positions to create this fan-shaped floor plan. And by doing so, we managed to achieve a window for every patient. And based on Roger Ulrich's study that, windows with a view could positively influence a patient's recovery, we hope that by giving a window to every patient in a ward that essentially hosts 4 to 6 beds, we could enhance patient comfort, enhance their personal space, and also give more space to the healthcare workers that are working around the beds. The result of this fan-shaped plan is that we managed to get a ward that has very little reliance on additional electric lighting and very little reliance on air conditioning as well. And the hospital also reported that they have operational savings from shorter patient stays, better infection control, and staff retention. So because the ward towers that you saw earlier on, they are like 12 stories or 8 stories, we needed to introduce vertical planting that went along the building towers, and this gave the patients direct views to nature from their beds. What this did was that it provided additional shading for the patients, as well as reduction in noise pollution from the traffic outside. To optimize the design of the inpatient wards, we conducted CFD modeling as well as climate analysis, acoustic analysis, daylighting analysis to really optimize the way the wards were designed. For example, for daylighting aspects, we have projecting slabs, light shelves, and skylights, and this ensured that all of our wards has a daylighting factor of more than 2. For a post-occupancy evaluation, we found out that 70% of the spaces in the hospital was naturally ventilated, and this represents about 82% of the inpatient wards. And when we did a comparison of energy consumption, the Jin Ting General Hospital consumes less than 38% of energy compared to our other Singaporean counterparts. And because we managed to capitalize on Singapore's one summer season, we actually save a lot more compared to US hospitals, which has to deal with the changes in climate all the time.
We can't actually vent.
So this is a video of the Jin Ting General Hospital. Okay, so now I'm going to go through a very quick collection of our different Singapore projects. This one is the National Centre for Infectious Diseases. It is located within an existing health hub. So we have the general hospital, a community hospital, a health science building, and a future medical school that are located on site. And the needs for this hospital is quite unique in the sense that we wanted to limit the exposure to the public while still having a controlled integration between these different medical facilities. The project itself is 105,000 square meters and has 330 beds. The core clinical facilities include an inpatient ward, screening areas, diagnostics, and research labs. And we identified that working in a center for infectious diseases would probably place higher levels of stress on the healthcare workers in these facilities. So we wanted to give them a breakout space where they could go and relax and enjoy sensorial therapy as well, but limit that exposure to the public. And so what we did was we internalized a lot of the biophilic design in this hospital. We have rooftop gardens with breakaway areas for the staff, and as well as internalized courtyards. Another example that we have is the National University Hospital. This is as an example of integration between healthcare and education. On site would be the School of Medicine. Another project that we did was the Ministry of Health headquarters in Singapore. And this one's quite interesting, the Ferris Square Medical Suites and Park Hotel. And Singapore is actually a very popular destination for medical tourism. We attract a lot of wealthier clients from Indonesia, India, and the Middle East to come here seeking our services. And so those that use this facility, they are usually there for extended stays, and they expect a higher level of comfort. So this hospital is modeled after a hospitality suite. In that sense, it's very much a hotel. And lastly, we also have Gardens by the Bay, which you might see in the movie Crazy Rich Asians. It is a government initiative to actually transform Singapore into a city in a garden. So we moved from a hospital in a garden to now the whole city is in the garden. And it actually plays a very integral role for Singaporeans. It is an urban oasis, providing them a space where they can really unplug from the fast pace of life. And the super trees, while they are very iconic showcases of form, they actually play a very functional role in the entire park itself. They help with the circulation of water, as well as collecting energy from the solar panels and moving it back into the glass, the greenhouses located in the park. So you see here, it's really a transition from the past, where we were having architecture with landscape elements, to now a fully integrated use of nature that meaningfully and significantly impacts the way we live. So lastly, I'm going to go through our overseas projects. We have a few projects in Malaysia. This is an academic hospital. This is a women and children's hospital in Malaysia as well. This is an example of a retirement resort master plan in which we designed riverfront living that evoked this rustic sense of the older Malay villages for the residents living there, so that they develop a sense of familiarity with the grounds. This is some of our projects in China. We did the 4th People's Hospital of Shenzhen, which is modeled after the Ng Ting Fung General Hospital. And here we are recreating that vertical landscaping with direct views to nature from the patient's bed. This is a project in Pakistan, and we used trellis that was adaptive to the local climate. Another Pakistan project. We even have projects in the Middle East. This is a women's and children's hospital in Afghanistan. So finally, I like to say that like many of our most innovative projects actually come from the rigorous conversations and discussions, as well as focus groups that we have with our various stakeholders. And this includes the developers, the doctors and nurses, and the engineers as well, and most importantly, it includes the end users. And this process of conversation actually provides us a lot of insightful, rich information that constantly challenges us as a design team to improve and evaluate our projects and create the award-winning architecture that we have today. So with that, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I hope that you managed to get better insight of some of the emerging projects that's coming from Singapore and Asia. Thank you.
We have a few minutes for questions.
How are most of your projects funded?
Most of our projects in Singapore, at least, they are funded by the government. With a few exceptions, like the Farrer Park Suites, that is a private hospital, so it's a private project. And then the international projects tend to be privately funded as well.
First of all, congratulations on such fantastic work.
Thank you.
Should be very, very proud. Thank you. Wondering if your clients are prepared for this innovation that you bring to them. Are you selected on that basis, or do you have to go through a process of bringing them on board with these innovative forms of thinking, which, again, I can't congratulate you enough for it?
Usually at the start of the design process, we engage them to tell us what their needs are. And from there, we go through a few brainstorming process internally to come up with what we would consider the most innovative solution for each of the projects. And usually it's that dialogue between our clients and really treating our clients as knowledgeable, well-informed users who may not know their needs when they come to us with the brief. And through that conversation, we are able to come up with very innovative solutions. In fact, most of the solutions are given to us from doctors and nurses themselves. And it is through the discussion that we fine-tune that process. So we don't consider ourselves as the experts when it comes to hospital design. It's the users.
Thank you.
My question is sort of related. To what extent do you involve local architects in your design for your international projects?
So, for example, the bigger projects like the Khoo Teck Hospital, the Gardens by the Bay, and like Ng Teng Fong Hospital, these are done in partnership with many American firms. We come from the area where we are helping with the local guidelines and also understanding the local climate and the people's needs. So in that aspect, we are able to give the input that our consulting partners in America and overseas are not able to see because they are not based in the region itself.
So there are no architects from the global south?
A lot of our partnerships in terms of the interior design is with local firms. Yep.
Hi, I'm Sean, a landscape architect. So I was wondering your collaboration with the landscape architecture firms and those folks, and did you have any challenges or any lessons learned while you were designing Biophilic buildings and sites?
With regards to landscape architecture, so they are usually the landscape architecture firms are usually the local firms. They are the ones that help select the best types of flora that would be appropriate for the projects. there is a lot of coordination, especially for vertical greening, between the landscape architects and the engineer. Some of the challenges that we often get is, irrigation issues, sometimes even pests. So, you want the hospital to be involved in nature, but you don't want the worms that come with it, kind of thing. So you really need to come up with very innovative solutions to prevent the outdoor elements and life forms from penetrating into areas where you need a more sterile environment. Yeah.
Impressed by the research aspect of this. You have quite a few metrics showing positive outcomes. Does the government require you to track that to prove that you're actually having better outcomes from your design?
So actually, it's the clients that want the measurements and the tracking of the design metrics. So, if you're telling them that we want to push for more innovative design and this is going to save you operational costs and resource efficiency, they want to see that it works at the end of the day. So at the beginning of tender, we are kind of contractually obligated to perform evaluations, measurements, and surveys at the end of the project.
So do you do both pre and post occupancy evaluations?
For most projects, yes, we do pre and post. The more popular one would be the post occupancy. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Pascal. I love all your landscape architecture, but I was just curious how much buy-in did you have to get in the beginning from the government to say that this is all necessary? Because it looks like something that would be value engineered out from this side.
So I think Singapore is a very unique case in this instance with regards to landscape. We had a politician many years back who was the first Prime Minister of Singapore, and he kind of mandated that Singapore would try and preserve as much of our green spaces as possible because of the land use problem. And at the very beginning, even in our building codes and regulations, there is a regulation on how much land we have to preserve, how much tree on the land we are allowed to chop down. So in that aspect, we do not always have a huge pushback from the government. Most of the time, it is the clients that want to expand the spaces, but they know that there's this mandate for greener spaces in Singapore.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Sanjit Roy. I really enjoyed it. So my question is about the walks that you've shown, where you have lighting and ventilation coming on one side, and then you have the other thing, the fan-shaped one where each bed got ventilation. My really question is about space efficiencies, because obviously when you have one hallway and beds for regular doing, it becomes very compact for a layout. And how does getting the extra light and ventilation, how does it impact the extra circulation per bed that happens? So what's been the feedback from the client side about that extra space? And what's been the general reception to the newer, I guess more contemporary way of laying out beds?
I would say that we were lucky for the Ng Teng Fong General Hospital. When we did the layout of the wards, we went through several rounds of very extensive analysis modeling and using the CFD analysis to help decide the orientation of the wards itself. With regards to circulation space, I'm not very familiar with whether or not the clients had an issue with the additional circulation space being used and given to, with the wards having priority over the circulation space. So I can't really comment on that, unfortunately. I hope I could say that the operational costs and savings would actually trump the issue with the circulation. Yeah.
So I would like to thank our Dr. Lee, Jessica again, and before we move to the
Thank you.